everybody, Tom Berry here with ILS Legacy Holdings and ILS Capital. So I wanted to do a video this morning and I'm going to entitle The Life of an ILS Loan. And I want to talk a little bit about the loan process through our lending company, Investor Loan Source, and then how that loan ends up in some of our offerings. So first of all, of course, everybody understands that we do have a hard money lending company based in Houston. We lend in about 25 or 6 states. And when a borrower comes to us, they're going to come to us through one of two channels. They're either going to come to us through our marketing efforts, through Investor Loan Source, or they're going to come through one of our broker relationships. And those brokers will also bring us a lot of clients. Right now, we're running probably around 50-50 as far as volume goes. In other words, about 50% of the loans that we are closing are coming through our marketing efforts, and the other 50% obviously would be coming through our broker relationships around the country and folks just sending us applications. So when we close one of those loans, we close it through one of two companies. If it's our marketing efforts, we're going to close it through ILS Lending. That is our lending company. Investor Loan Source is really just a marketing name. It's a DBA that we use for marketing and advertising for loans. But the lender, we have two companies, ILS Lending and Pearl Funding. Now, ILS Lending is going to close and fund all the loans through our channel, through our marketing channel. We call that the in-house loans. Anything that comes through the broker program is going to go through Pearl Funding. And the reason we use another company for those is because we need anonymity. So if a mortgage broker in Cincinnati, Ohio, sends us a borrower from Cincinnati, and we like that loan and we close that loan, we don't want the borrower to circumvent that broker and come directly to us the next time he or she needs a loan. So that's why we use a completely separate company for those broker relationships. It actually protects the broker from their borrower circumventing them and just coming directly to the source, to the actual lender the next time. So we have two balance sheets that we use for lending, ILS Lending and Pearl Funding. And when we close a loan, I think it's very important for our investors to understand we don't know if that loan is ever going to leave our balance sheet. So why would that be important for you to know? Well, when we are going through the due diligence and we are underwriting a loan, we underwrite it assuming that that loan will stay on our balance sheet to maturity. So we're not just writing any old loan to throw it in a fund somewhere and get a fee off of it. We have to be very particular about the loans we write because that loan may never leave our balance sheet. So let's talk about if it does leave our balance sheet. We have two balance sheets, ILS Lending and Pearl Funding. We've got a ton of loans on both of them at any one given time. Now somebody puts money in the growth fund. Let's just say that we've got $500,000 comes in the growth fund. Now, ILS and Pearl are located here in Houston where I'm standing right now in our Houston office. But the money that comes into the growth fund, it comes in our El Campo office, which is 3 counties away in a totally different building, obviously. So when the money comes in the fund, either fund, whether it's growth or income, but hypothetically, let's just use the growth fund, for example, Jeff Terrell, who works in our El Campo office, he's going to go shopping with that $500,000. Don't panic. He's not going to go to Bermuda. He's not going to go off somewhere fun. He's going to go to our balance sheet at ILS Lending and Pearl Funding, and he's going to shop for loans that meet the buy box for the growth fund. Now he's got $500,000 to shop with, and he does this shopping on the first of every month when new money comes in. So he goes, he looks at these balance sheets, and he says to our servicing director, I want this one, and this one. These are the ones I want. and they'll buy them on the first of the month over into the growth fund. Now, what has just transpired? First of all, we do not lend in our funds. That's the first thing that I want to get across. We lend on our own balance sheet. But if Jeff needs that loan to fulfill the needs of that fund, he has first dibs on them. He's going to grab that loan and put it over on the fund's balance sheet. Now, all the interest income, while that loan is over here in that fund, goes to all the fund participants. Now, is there a premium for him to buy that from us? Absolutely not. That's a question that we should get asked. We don't. I don't think I've ever been asked that question, but you should. We do not sell those loans to the fund at a premium. We sell them at par, meaning if they owe us $100,000 on that loan, that's what we're going to sell it to the fund for, is $100,000. We don't get a markup, we don't get a premium. How can we do that? Well, because we don't lend in the fund, we lend on our own balance sheet, we charge our borrowers points and fees, and that covers our overhead in our Houston staff. So we don't lend out of the fund, we lend on our own balance sheet, and then the fund buys the note from us if the fund wants it. And those are separate companies. They are completely separate companies, completely separate staff. So my origination team here in Houston has no idea if that loan is ever going to leave our books. Now, once that loan leaves our books, it could go a multitude of places. Of course, we give preference to our funds. We have the growth fund, the income fund, and we have some private offerings as well, some fixed rate private offerings that we offer. In addition to that, we also sell notes to IRA holders. I'm standing in our Houston office in this same building. Quest Trust has their office. A lot of their clients don't want to go into a fund. Maybe they just want to buy a note, and they come to us and we will sell them a note. We also sell to individuals. We also sell to institutions. A couple of examples, we sell to several insurance companies, and we also sell to actually one other private equity fund. They don't want to originate notes, but they love having notes in their fund for their investors, so they come to us and they buy ours. Of course, our funds and our offerings always get first priority. Anything left, we'll offer to others. But at the end of the day, not every note sells. Some notes still stay on our balance sheet to maturity, and we're okay with that. Now, once we sell the note to whoever, what happens? We sell it at par if we're selling it internally. Now, if we're selling it externally, we don't sell it at par, but that's a whole different story. But internally, to our funds and our offerings, we sell it at par. Once that note is sold, we record that sale with the county in which that property exists. So we have to electronically file a lot of recordings around the country. And there are some backward counties that still don't allow that, and we actually have to do that through the mail system. But each one of these sales is recorded with the county in which the property resides. And then, after it's sold and recorded, ILS also continues to service that note at no charge to the person that bought it or the entity that bought it. And we offer that to the people that buy, to the other PE fund that buys, to the insurance companies that buy. We still service all of those notes. And the reason we do it is because we want to maintain that relationship with that borrower. In other words, we don't want to just sell that note and now they've got to pay a different entity. They've got to talk to different people someplace else that they don't want to go through that. And we don't want to put them through that. We want to maintain that relationship, so once that property is sold or refinanced and they go out and buy the next one, we want them to come back to us for that next loan as well. Now, after all of that takes place, let's assume that one of those notes goes bad. Our buyback policy has always been between 45 and 60 days into default. We will buy that loan back onto our balance sheet from the fund. We don't offer that to some of the external places that we sell, but to our funds we do. And we have never had a foreclosure in any of our funds because of this buyback policy. It states that within 45 to 60 days of default, we'll buy it back at par, including interest. Now, let me be very clear. We are not required by law, and it is not written in our PPM that we will always buy back a note that goes into default in the fund, but we have always done so since inception. So the fund has never ever lost a penny of interest when a loan has gone into default in any of our offerings, because we'll pay all that interest. We assume when we buy that note back onto our balance sheet again, we're going to get that money back. We're going to get that interest back, and we'll get it back one of two ways. One, we'll work it out with the borrower to get them back on track and get them caught up. That's one way, and that's the way that most of them go. Or the other way is we have to take the property back, and we can do that through a friendly foreclosure. We can do that for a hostile foreclosure. Once we get that property back on our, now we've got a property on our balance sheet instead of a note, and then we dispose of that property to pay off what we owe to our own company. So that is how a note works its way clear through the ILS system. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but some of the high points that I really want to bring to your attention is, number one, we don't lend out of our funds, and that, we believe, protects our funds, because our funds have never had a lawsuit from an unhappy borrower, because the funds don't lend. Now, our origination company has had borrowers who were unhappy that when they didn't pay their bills, we foreclosed on them, and we have had lawsuits. No, we've never lost one, obviously, but those are things we don't want the fund to incur. We want the fund to be simple. It owns a note, it earns interest income, and we pay it out monthly. And that's what the funds have always been. That's what we want them to always be. All the rest of the stuff we can handle over here in our other companies. So we don't lend out of the fund. We sell our notes to those funds at par, no premium, and we buy them back at par, including interest, if they go into default. So I hope that helps you to understand the life cycle of a loan at Investor Loan Source and ILS Capital. If you have any questions, as always, reach out to me, Tom@ils.cash, and I'm happy to answer them for you. See you on the next video.